Hi everyone, I'm hoping that you've had a good week so far. We are going to make a plane and helicopter today. I'm happy to say that we partnered with the College Park Aviation Museum that is here in College Park. Prince George's County has so many fantastic things in it. And I hope that you enjoy the video that they took the time to make, especially for us. Just a great place. If you haven't visited, I highly encourage it. It is a wonderful little gem that we have here close by. So what you will need for the project is coming up. Okay, what we will need for the project today is our paper plate that is for our paint. Okay, and we should again have 2 paints. So go ahead and grab those. And as we know, we have a foam brush to go with our paints. We'll probably want a little water container to help keep our brush clean. Okay, we will need half of our cereal box, which will be great for making our plane. We will have this template inside. So what you can do is you can cut these out and then lay it and trace it on here, and that'll be shown in the video. So we'll be able to make a pretty cool plane with that. We also have a great little template for making a helicopter. That should be included. You also have Q-tips that can be used for making other marks for decorating your plane when you go to paint it. You will have a paper clip, all important paper clip. And then again, you'll need a pair of scissors so that way you can cut out your plane pieces and the such. Okay? All right, let's get started and make ourselves an airplane. And don't forget, at the end of this video, there will be information about our partner organization that will enable you to learn more about them and possibly even go visit. So make sure you watch to the end. So now don't forget, some of these projects take a little bit of time to do. So you are always free to pause the video and do each segment at your own pace. And then when you're ready to move to the next step, you can go ahead and press play. Okay? So always take your time. There's no rush. It doesn't have to be done in any certain amount of time. So enjoy the process.
Hello, students of Lakefield Elementary School, and welcome to the College Park Aviation Museum. My name is Kim, and I'm going to be telling you guys a little bit about the amazing history that our local community has in aviation history. Today we're going to be talking about only 2 of the planes here we have in our gallery, and hopefully you guys can come out in person in the future and see the rest of our amazing collection. The first plane we're going to be talking about today is this guy hanging from our ceiling, and it is the Boeing Stearman PT-17. This plane was originally manufactured for World War II training. That means it's still made out of pretty old-fashioned, let's say, materials. So most of it is made out of wood and canvas, and it's a biplane. And because it's only made for training, it didn't really need to be the most sturdy of planes. But we're not going to be talking about World War II really with this plane. We're going to be talking about a lot more recent history. In the year 2000, a local aviator named Gus McLeod, who's actually from Gaithersburg, was the first aviator to fly an open cockpit plane, which means the top half of your body is still completely exposed to the elements, to the North Pole. And he actually became the first pilot to fly in an open cockpit plane to both the magnetic and geographic North Pole. So about 22 years ago now. Still pretty recent history compared to the grand scheme of things. Now, to do this, As I said, this plane is pretty old. It was made for World War II. It was not made to hold up in the extreme temperatures of the North Pole. Gus had to make a lot of modifications to this plane, but also to himself. Before he went on this journey, he actually gained about 60 pounds for some natural body heat and insulation, and he had made himself a specialty flight suit that had about 6 layers and some electric heating elements in it as well. He luckily had a team following him to document his journey from National Geographic, and it was also great they were there for safety just in case something went wrong. And to communicate with them, he had a microphone that kind of stuck out in front of his mouth, like a Britney Spears microphone, if you guys know what I'm talking about. But because it was so cold, that mic actually got stuck to the inside of his cheek, and he did have to rip it out, and as we can imagine, that was probably pretty painful. It was still an incredibly dangerous journey, even though it was only about like 20 years ago. Still a very brave thing to do. And as I mentioned, the modifications to his plane, even though he spent years fixing it up, there were still things that went wrong. Nothing is perfect. So when he got to these extreme cold temperatures, the front of the plane began to warp. And as you can see around the nose of that plane, there's a lot of duct tape there. So Gus had to patch up the nose of that plane where gaps formed and a ton of cold air was hitting a really hot engine. And extreme cold and extreme hot do not mix well, and he did not want his engine to stall out or break. So he had to do sort of an emergency landing and fix it up as best he could with that duct tape and then keep on going. As I mentioned earlier, there was that team following him, so when he eventually reached his goal of the North Pole, the plane wasn't in good enough shape to bring it all the way back here to the United States and to College Park. So the team that was following him picked him up, they left the plane on an ice float, and eventually they were able to go back and retrieve it, and Gus eventually flew it into College Park Airport, where we are right now, and generously donated it to us. And if we look on his tail number, we can see it's really special because it has that NP in the back, which stands for North Pole. So Gus's plane is the only one in the entire world that will have this tail number. Really unique. All right, as I said, he flew his plane right here into College Park Airport, and our second plane we're going to be talking about is the Air Coupe, another plane that was flown right here at College Park Airport. Now, the Air Coupe was known as the safest plane of its time, and it's the only plane in our gallery that's now completely made out of metal, which we probably know is a lot safer, as it is what all of our planes are made out of today. The Air Coupe was manufactured in a factory in Riverdale, right where the Whole Foods is, and it's a really important local history because the first ever Air Coupe that was ever built was made right here at College Park Airport. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today and learning a little bit about our rich history in aviation, and we hope to see you guys here in person. Thank you.
Okay, so these are the supplies that we'll be using today to make our airplane. You should have in your bag a foam brush, which I'm going to set to the side because we don't need it right away. A selection of paints. They're little tiny bottles just for you. We'll set those aside because we're going to use those later. A pencil. This is my favorite type of pencil, and you can tell it's very well loved because it's very short. And then we have 2 templates. These are drawings that somebody has made, and you should have these. They're on cardstock, and they're going to help us make our plane. And then a piece of cardboard. This can be, I'm using just an old pizza box lid, and I'm just going to avoid these little oily spots. So that will get us going because I'm not going to need the whole piece because I just need to cut out these little pieces. And then you should have a pair of scissors on hand. So make sure that you have a pair of scissors on hand to make sure that we have everything that we need. I'm going to set this one aside because this is the one that we're going to focus on first. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to cut out my template. I'm going to follow along these lines as closely as I can. I may save this because I may put this as part of my decoration on my plane. So, so hang on to that just in case. I always find that it's better to cut a little bit more slowly because then I cut a little bit better. If I try to go too fast, then sometimes I mess up. So there we have one piece. This is the second piece. I'm still gonna have to do a little cutting on that. So now I have my pieces that I am going to use to trace onto this. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut out these little tiny spaces, and I will say cut towards the inside of these little lines. Okay, so you can see I've gotten this almost cut out. And to make it easier to cut that last little bit, I'm going to fold it like that, and then I can just come back here and snip it off. I'm going to try to fold it in half for the moment, because basically we want a place for our wings. And I'm going to pay attention to both sides because I may not have it folded exactly in half. But this way I have made holes that I can then kind of sneak my scissors into. So it gets a little tricky. So you might, if you need to get an adult to help you with this, I think that is a great idea because it isn't the easiest little cut to make. And basically how this goes together is these are this long rectangle is the wing. And we're going to redo this using the cardboard because the cardboard will make it much more stable. And then this will go in here like this, okay? So you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like ultimately. Okay, so now it's time for the pencil. I've laid my pieces down here on top of the cardboard. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see these. You see these little grooves? That, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the way those are because I think that it'll be stronger this way. And so I'm just finding a good spot in here, and I'm going to hold it down with my one hand. And then I'm going to come through here, and I'm tracing this. You guys might have done this before. Have you ever traced your hand maybe to make Thanksgiving turkey or something like that? Or to show somebody holding hands. So now I have this. So this is my wings. I'm going to set this over here so I don't get it confused with my scrap. Okay. Same thing here. I'm going to trace this one. And again, you see how I'm moving my hand up to hold it down so that it stays flat where I need it to stay flat. And then I'm going to put in the marks. I'm going to make sure that I have the marks for the tail as well. The wings and the tail. So, and I made those extra dark so that I know what they're for. I will trace that. And so to make it easier on myself, again, I'm going to cut out away all this excess of my box so that I'm not trying to fight with that the whole time I'm cutting the other stuff out. So that way I have smaller pieces to work with, which makes it much more manageable to work with. So I'm just going to work my way through. And so again, I'm getting rid of the excess. I'll put it over here. I have excess. If I want to make another plane, I can do that. Because I can reuse my templates. So I don't have to just stop with the one. I can go ahead and make more down the road if I want. If I want to make a whole, I don't know, would you call it a fleet? And you can, if it gets tough, sometimes like these little pieces will start to curl up on you. So you can cut them away so that it makes it easier to get your scissors down to where they need to go. And again, we want to cut these out. So I need to cut that line. And then I need to cut this line. Big. So I have these smaller scissors. So I think this probably is more along the lines of the size scissors that you have. And that'll make it easier for me to cut that skinny line. And then with a little fiddling, we've got, okay. No, I might have to because see, I have this here. So, and then this goes in here. And I tell you what I'm going to do, even though it's not on our drawing, I'm going to make a little cut right in here so that when I put this on here, I can get it to line up a little bit better. Okay, so we have that. So now we get to decorate it, which I think is probably the most exciting part. So now we get our paints. All right, so now we have our paints. I'm going to use a little bit of cardboard for my putting my paints on so that I can paint them a little bit easier. So my favorite color is blue. So I'm going to choose blue. I'm going to use a little bit of water that I have that it's tinted so you can see it. I use that for watercolor and such. And so I can make this paint move around a little bit better with just a little bit of water. I don't think you have to have it. If you want something to show through a little bit, you can see it that my pizza box info is showing through a little bit. Maybe I'll make that part of my design. And so first I'm just doing a base coat, okay? Because I want my plane is going to be blue largely, and then I can add some decorations to it. Put a second coat on there. Now I have to wait and let that dry. Okay, so now that's my plane's pretty dry. Now I want to decorate it. So I'm going to squeeze out a little yellow. And the reason I'm using yellow is because it is brighter than this blue. So it should show up on the plane pretty easily. I'm using a Q-tip to make my marks. So I'm going to make a polka dotted plane. And so you can look around your house and see what other things you have to make marks. Like you could also, if you use, this has a really nice sharp end, I can also come in here and make, if I wanted to put some lines, and I just can boop. Paint. Right. And since my first name is Raquel, I'm going to put an R on the back of my plane because it's Raquel's Airlines. What would yours be? What would you put on yours? What airline would you put? So I can't wait till you guys get to share all the planes that you've made. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, for our helicopter, we just need our template and a paper clip and our scissors. So first off, you only need one of these. So if you got two, that means you can make two. And again, we're just going to cut out our shape. We're going to keep this way. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to fold along the dotted lines. So we want to fold this along the dotted lines. Now what we want to do is we want to cut here on the solid line. So stop at the dotted line there. So there's one cut there. And then we're going to come to the other side. And there's one cut there. Okay. And so what we want to do is then fold here. So we're going to fold it along that dotted line there. Okay. And then we're going to fold the other one. So we're going to, basically, we're sort of making an envelope. So we're going to fold along the dotted line. Okay. So now we should have something that looks like this, sort of like a fan, right? And then this we're going to fold up. So I'm going to turn mine over here because what I want it to do is hold down this little flap. So we're going to fold at the dotted line. Okay. And if you want, I was taught this when I was about 6, where you can take your thumbnail and press down where the fold is and make it really nice and sharp. A librarian taught me this when I was little. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your paper clip and attach it here. Okay. And then we have to fold here for the rotors. And again, we're going to cut along this solid line. Okay, and stop at the dotted line because the dotted line always means a fold, all right? So this one, we're going to fold away from us, so it's away from us. So if I'm sitting here over on this side, I'm folding it away, and then this one's going to fold towards me. So that you're going to, from above, it's going to look like this. From the side, it's going to look like this. Okay? And then what you do is you hold the helicopter with the paper clip pointing out away from your body like this, and then throw it like you would a baseball or a paper airplane. So up and out. And then it should spin as it falls to the ground. And it may remind you of something that falls off of trees. So if there's something that you know that falls off of trees that you throw the same way, this is very similar. Okay? So there you go. You have a helicopter. And if you want to decorate this one, you can decorate this one too. But let it dry before you throw it. All right. Again, we'll look forward to seeing you on Zoom. Bye.